On today's Minute of the Apes, we're going to play Galaga.
Yay!
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape! Exercise with an ape maker, human down. It talks. We are the keepers of the divine bound. It is our only reason for survival. We are determined to know what the apes want, war or peace. The only good human is a dead human!
Hello and welcome to Minute of the Apes, the daily podcast where we break down every minute of the Planet of the Apes movies, 1 minute at a time, and we gather in my nerd room, which my wife has moved into and put her little Galaga stand-up game and sort of taken over my life. Is that kind of the truth of having a spouse?
She's slowly creeping in, I can see.
Yeah, she has a whole little part of the wall over there that has some Gone with the Wind stuff, which I swear is not mine.
Uh-huh, sure.
All right, here we are. It is minute 54, which means this is Thursday. Golly, the week's flying by. I say it all the time, but it just seriously, I don't even feel like I did anything the last couple of days.
I've gotten nothing done.
All right, Sean, tell us what's happening in minute 54.
We start minute 54 with Cornelius finishing his statement about apes performing services and ends with Cornelius saying Aldo did not grunt.
Here comes minute 54 of Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
Nothing more or less than a well-trained sheepdog could do.
Look, could a sheepdog cook? Or clean the house, or do the marketing for the groceries with a list from its mistress, or wait on tables?
Or, after 3 more centuries, turn the tables on their owners.
How? Well, they became alert to the concept of slavery. And as their numbers grew, to slavery's antidote, which, of course, is unity. Well, at first they began assembling in small groups. They learned the art of corporate and militant action. They learned to refuse. Oh, at first they just grunted their refusal. But then, on an historic day which is commemorated by my species and fully documented in the sacred scrolls, there came Aldo. He did not grunt.
As of minute 54, we have a planet's worth of humans plus 2 living apes, 1 who's pregnant, and 1 dead ape.
All right.
So yeah, if you're talking cooking, cleaning, and everything else, and you're not being paid for it, yeah, you're a slave.
Pretty much.
Uh-huh.
It starts off very sweet and innocent. I don't know that slavery ever started sweet and innocent, but it does play that way. But you know exactly what they are moving towards.
About,
and I think by the end of it, I actually found an interesting correlation to Skynet. I almost found myself in Terminator type thought of, we started as machines were helping man, but eventually they took over. And I thought, oh, well, maybe Cameron watched a little bit of this. And you kind of, it's not like Skynet's a unique idea to begin with, but you can almost see how, hey, maybe he watched this and it came from this kind of thought.
Well, he also read a Harlan Ellison story and ripped off some elements from that.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, if you look in the end credits, it says there's a credit to Harlan Ellison. They had to legally do that because
it was just,
it's called Demon with a Glass Hand.
Okay.
He took some elements from that, yeah.
Damn, James Cameron, screw you.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, sorry, I went down to James Cameron. And by the way, you didn't deserve the Oscar for Titanic. I digress.
So the start of the scene, basically, E1, who is seated at the table by the lamp this entire time, now gets up, asks the questions, nothing more or less than a trained sheepdog would do, and moves over to E2, who is standing over by the recording machine. And I thought it was kind of interesting to both get them up and get them out of the over to the side. They almost seem kind of more dominating, like they're I guess a little more aggressive now.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly because you have the amiable one, E1, is the one who asked the question, nothing more or less than a well-trained sheepdog would do. He was supposed to say just like sheepdogs, but I guess they gave him something more to say so he could actually stand up and walk away.
And no matter what I do now, Richard, I can't unsee that sconce that's on the wall. It's really screwing with me ever since you brought it up.
That's all you can look at?
I can't
look at lit. It's not shining lit on anything.
It's just in the background.
It's just there.
I can't even watch these scenes. I have to retire from this because that sconce is going to haunt me for the rest of my life.
I think this is the first time with this down shot of Zero and Cornelius that I saw the green carpeting.
Oh, I didn't even notice that either.
Do you see it there in the
shaggy?
Yeah, weird. They're in green shag carpeting. But it's not in the hallway when it might just be a rug, maybe.
Also, we're really getting into minutia here, but the desk behind Cornelius and Zira.
Yeah.
That one file cabinet that's sitting on a desk, I've never seen anything like that before.
A single file cabinet?
And why would you have it sitting
on a desktop facing that way?
Well, you'd have the drawer pulls out
across the table.
Across the table, not across the thing.
See, that would be the way I would do it, and I would constantly be like, damn it, I knocked everything off on the ground.
We wanted to know if this was a built set, and if it was a built set, I mean, it was really haphazardly put together. This looks like it was a repurposed room, honestly, just because of the way they staged the props. And the lamp,
I don't know.
The lamp that shines on nothing.
The way that they have cameras in there, I think it's a set because you've got a fourth missing wall behind you.
Yeah. That's my only reason. You're never crossing lines and doing things beyond that make me think this has to be a set with even wild walls so they can move them, and they're not even doing that. But the staging's so boring.
But the inoperative lamp that points to nothing. Right. And now the file cabinet that pulls out across a table.
Well, yeah. I think that just screams of, hey, let's slap a room together. We have something they used last week on,
Young and the Restless or whatever.
I'm trying to even think of what was Perry Mason, one of those kind of shows. They used it. We can get in there. It's already set up. Can you put a file cabinet there?
That's probably right. You're probably what it is. It's probably just a reuse set from another show or something like that. So Cornelius then kind of enlightens the idea of what a sheepdog can't do versus what an ape can do. Cook, clean, marketing, groceries, a list from mistress. Now we're setting up the slavery, right? Yeah. Which is probably why the monkeys and the interracial stuff was brought up 2 minutes earlier, was to set the stage of this comparative between slavery and apes and humans. But Cornelius is still kind of a little more matter of fact at the beginning of the statement, like he's just kind of explaining how the evolution happened as opposed to getting angry. We do have an interesting name drop here. Aldo.
Aldo, yeah. Mm-hmm. Again, this is one of those things where I wish they had set it up in previous movies or something, because they're bringing this Aldo character out that it's supposed to have some sort of significance, but we have no weight to that name.
Right.
Is Aldo in the future movies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do get some, as much as we may malign the use of a set, you do get some interesting use of camera movement. We have Hassline. The camera does not move but he leans into the camera, which gives him a sense of power. The next shot is of Cornelius and Zira and Agent whichever.
Icy. Agent Icy is now moved behind them.
And the camera actually trucks back a little bit, relinquishing their power. So they are those types of film language type things, as one character leans into it and the camera doesn't back off, it exerts his power. When the camera pulls from them, they lose their power. So we're definitely doing classic film language here, that works.
Right.
It's just, it really is, even with you can almost see with the close-ups that they've done the exact same camera setup. They've just zoomed the lens, locked it, and gone. So it's a little bit of remedial kind of almost television direction of that time.
Let's see, they became alert to the concept of slavery, and as their numbers grew to slavery's antidote, which is unity, they began to assemble in small groups. They learned the art of corporate and militant action. They learned to refuse. This is really kind of a, fascinating idea that they start off as pets, and the assumption at this point is that the apes are now talking, right? I mean, how would you be able to have this kind of movement? They talk about the evolution of them, but they don't never say that the apes learned to speak.
I mean, technically they don't have to talk because we we can teach animals to do tasks, and they don't have speech patterns, so they don't necessarily have to have been able to talk.
But I mean, we're now in a situation where they began to get together in groups. So they're going to the grocery stores, and they're
having cognitive thought at this point.
Well, I mean, they can talk to each other, but we don't necessarily know that they were speaking English back then yet.
Okay, you're right. I could see that. They could understand humans, and they could communicate with each other, but not necessarily to humans. We don't know they could speak in the way that Cornelius and Zira speak now. At first, they grunted their refusal. It was originally supposed to be, say, barked.
Oh, really?
Which might have been a reference to kind of bring back the dog, the sheepdog, which is why he used the choice of a sheepdog earlier. At first, they barked, but in the script, it was changed to grunted. And it was changed again. In the Secret Scrolls, there came an ape called Aldo who didn't bark, was also used, but it was changed to grunted as well for the scene.
I think grunted is probably more common towards what an ape would do than a bark.
Yeah, I agree. But
I think that might have confused them.
Yeah, and I think that maybe that's why he originally used the sheepdog as a reference.
But bring the bark back into it. You could use the term like he barked orders at me. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going bark, bark, bark. Right?
But grunting is definitely not speaking, and barking is potentially speaking.
Right. But it ends with Aldo did not grunt. We don't necessarily, it's simply his not doing what was expected, which was the shock. He doesn't speak. It doesn't say that. Yeah,
correct?
There came an ape called Aldo who didn't grunt.
Yeah, that's where we end the minute.
Now, when you're watching that minute at that point, do you take the implication that he did not grunt? He spoke? Is his lack of grunting somehow the defiance? And I know we got a minute coming. I'm just asking in this moment. Is that what that implies?
Just based upon this minute, in the Secret Skulls, the Cayman ape Aldo who didn't grunt, you're moving into the idea of a prophet or a messiah. Just in the one statement alone, particularly he's referencing the Secret Scrolls. Mm-hmm. Which is why we're supposed to understand why he has all this knowledge before about the cats and the dogs, right? I mean, we're bringing the scrolls back into it.
Right.
That's how Cornelius has this knowledge that he did not have in the first movie, that he could not convince anybody else, that apparently Dr. Zaius didn't care to mention the stuff in the scrolls about, cats and dogs and humans.
Well, I would love to say that it all makes sense, but sorry, I was looking up something about the next film.
The next film or the next minute?
No, the next film. Okay. I wanted to know, jumping ahead. I at least wanted that for my own knowledge base. It's just hard to rectify this whole set of minutes with what we've already discussed, that they shouldn't have this information. So, as much as this is a great premise, it rings a little hollow. Again, could you agree with that?
This is all information we could have used in previous movies.
And that's a lot to give the audience all in 2 minutes of time. It's a lot of backstory.
It is, but at the same time, it's pretty easy to understand because they are touching on, like you said, we start to almost allude to slavery. So we can immediately correlate the idea. We can see how animals evolved to this, and this happened. This is how they got here. So,
I mean, it's a summary of any type of uprising, of any type of people,
Right. Well, I hate to end minute 54 with kind of a, gee, that's where we are, because these are, here's what I do like, and I put this note for myself tomorrow, but I want to touch on it now, that in all of this, let's think back to how these minutes this week began, is we're listening to tapes of what Zira has done before. Mm-hmm. That is Dane as a screenwriter saying, I understand the world I've created, and here's the repercussions of what you did just 30 minutes ago. And I think this is great screenwriting. I think it's great screenwriting from the standpoint of making a backstory that is sensible. It's just we get down to this point where, and I think that most people out there listening who've seen these kind of, surely you scratch your head and go, what? I mean,
no,
is that fair?
And don't call me sure.
Well, you don't have any hair, too. So do you even scratch your head when you're bald?
Yes, your head does it.
I'm just kidding. I was trying to bring levity, Sean. All right, minute 54. That's it. Boys, you have anything else?
No, that's it for me.
All right. For Rich and Sean, I'm Todd. We'll see you tomorrow. Everybody have a great day.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.